For 20 years, I gave him everything: my youth, my loyalty, my silence. While I held our family together, he dined with someone half my age, smiling like I never existed. He told me I was too emotional, too much, and never enough. Every time I asked for respect, he gave me distance. Every time I begged for honesty, he offered another lie. But the night I saw them together, my tie around his neck, her hand on his chest, I stopped being the woman who waited, hoped, and forgave. I became the woman who watched him fall apart without ever raising her voice. Hi, I'm Elena Carter, and this is the story of how I stopped being invisible and made him regret underestimating me. I wasn't the kind of woman who snooped. I believed in trust. After 20 years of marriage, I thought I had earned at least that, but trust only works when the other person isn't using it as a blindfold. It was a Thursday night, nothing special. He told me he had a work dinner, some client he needed to impress, and he wouldn't be home until late. I kissed his cheek, handed him the tie I ironed that morning, and watched him leave like I always did. But something felt wrong. I can't explain it. It wasn't his words, or even how he looked. It was how he didn't look back when he left. No quick smile, no love you over his shoulder, just silence. I tried to shake it off. I poured a glass of wine, turned on an old movie, and told myself I was being paranoid. He was a provider, a man who never forgot our anniversary, who still brought me flowers on random days. Surely I was imagining things, until I saw the photo. It popped up on my phone while I was scrolling through Instagram. One of those "you may know this person" accounts, someone I didn't recognize, had posted a story. I wouldn't have clicked it, but his face was in the background. My husband, laughing, smiling, not at a dinner with clients, but at a rooftop restaurant, 2 glasses of wine between them, across from a woman who couldn't be more than 25. My heart didn't stop. That would have been kinder. It twisted into something ugly, sharp, and unfamiliar. Because I'd seen that smile before, the one he gave her. It used to be mine. I watched the short clip over and over. I zoomed in. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a look-alike. That was my husband, the man who left our home an hour earlier, lying to my face, dressed in the tie I had lovingly prepared. And the worst part? He wasn't even hiding it. She leaned over the table, touched his arm. He grinned like a schoolboy, the kind of grin I hadn't seen in years, not directed at me at least. I didn't cry, not then. The tears would come later, when the house was quiet, and I was alone with the realization that I had been sleeping, next to a stranger, that everything I had built, the family, the memories, the love, was nothing more than a carefully spun lie. But in that moment, as I stared at the screen, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just betrayal. It was humiliation. He thought I would never find out, that I'd sit at home in my pajamas, waiting for him to come back, maybe even warm up his dinner and ask about his meeting. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, and then I did something I hadn't done in a long, long time. I got up, walked to the mirror, and looked at myself. Tired eyes, faded makeup, a woman who had given everything, time, love, loyalty, to a man who was now laughing across a table with someone young enough to be his daughter. And I whispered out, loud to my own reflection, "You deserve better than this." That's when it began. Not the revenge, not the plan, but the awakening. I didn't scream. I didn't call him. I didn't demand answers or beg for the truth. No, that's not who I was anymore. He had made a mistake. He thought I was the kind of woman who would crumble. But what he didn't know was that the moment I saw that video, I wasn't his wife anymore. I was the storm he never saw coming. The next morning, he came home as if nothing had happened. Hair slightly tousled, the smell of expensive cologne lingering longer than usual, and that smug half-smile on his face. He dropped his keys on the counter, loosened his tie, my tie, and kissed my cheek. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I just watched him, silent, while he walked into the kitchen like he still belonged here. "How was dinner?" I asked, my voice calm. He yawned. "Long. Boring. These clients don't know when to stop drinking. I nodded, holding back the bile rising in my throat. He was lying to my face, smooth, effortless, like he'd done it 100 times before. Like I was a fool, or worse, invisible. He went on, telling me some fabricated story about a client's golf trip, cracking jokes, making himself coffee, and texting on his phone with a stupid little grin on his lips. Probably texting her. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't some midlife crisis fling that had just started. No, this was routine for him. The fake dinners, the late-night meetings, the weekend conferences. How many times had I believed him, trusted him? The shame came crashing in like a wave. I'd spent years supporting him through every failed business idea, every job change, every stress spiral. I had been the steady one, the one who worked extra hours when we were short on bills, the one who raised our daughter while he figured things out. I was always the dependable one, and he repaid me with this? The next few days, I watched him more closely, quietly, like a researcher studying a predator. I noticed everything, the hurried texts, the late showers, the secretive smiles, the way he turned his phone upside down when I walked by, the way he suddenly cared about how he looked, going to the gym twice a week, buying new shirts. He even started wearing cologne again, the kind he wore when we first started dating. Only now it wasn't for me. And the more I watched, the more I noticed how sloppy he'd gotten. Because liars always do. When they think you trust them, they get careless. He was using our joint account to pay for dinner dates, Uber rides, and hotel stays. Yes, hotels. He didn't even try to hide the charges, just listed them under business expenses on our shared credit card statement, assuming I wouldn't look too closely. But I did. And what I found made my blood run cold. There were payments going back months, sometimes twice a week, same restaurants, same hotel. He was funding his affair with our money, the money I earned, the savings I had been building, the future I thought we were planning together. It wasn't just emotional betrayal, it was financial. Theft. And he wasn't just cheating on me, he was robbing me. And yet, every night, he walked into this house with the same mask on, pretending everything was fine. I kept smiling too. Pretending. Cooking his meals. Letting him think I was still in the dark. But every moment I spent beside him, I felt like I was sitting next to a stranger wearing my husband's face. I started writing it all down. Dates, amounts, hotel names. I screenshot every suspicious charge, every shady message that popped up on his screen when he thought I wasn't looking. At night, I cried into my pillow, not because I missed him, but because I was mourning me, the version of me that once believed in him. The woman who thought she had built a life on trust and partnership, that woman was gone now. All that was left was someone betrayed, but not broken. I had a daughter to protect, a future to rebuild, and a liar sleeping under my roof. He thought I was weak, that I would break quietly, but I was just getting started. It's easy for people to say, just leave. But those people don't understand what it means to build. A life with someone who slowly chips away at your identity, year after year, until you forget where you end and they begin. This wasn't just about catching him cheating. This was about everything I had poured into our marriage. Every sacrifice, every piece of myself I gave up, my time, my energy, my dreams, just to keep our home running, to raise our daughter, to protect our so-called family. And he risked it all for dinner dates and hotel rooms with a girl who barely knew how to spell commitment. I wasn't just angry. I was shattered. But I also had clarity now. Because once you see betrayal up close, you can never unsee it. You start to re-watch your life like a film reel, spotting the cracks you ignored, the red flags you explained away, the nights he came home and didn't kiss me, the birthdays he missed, the trips I took alone with our daughter, while he claimed to be too busy. Suddenly, it all made sense. And it hurt more than I expected. Because our daughter, Mia, was 17, just 1 year from college, 1 year from flying out of this nest I had built for her with blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. I had stayed in this marriage far longer than I should have, Because I wanted her to have a complete home. I wanted her to feel safe. But what kind of home is built on lies? What safety was I giving her if I stayed silent and allowed this man to teach her that women should just endure betrayal? That thought hit me harder than anything else. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her. Because one day she'd fall in love. She'd give someone her trust. And what would I have taught her? That love means tolerating deceit? That mothers must smile through the tears while their husbands lie straight to their faces? No. I couldn't be that kind of example. And then came the money. We had been saving for Mia's college tuition for years. Every spare dollar, every bonus check, every skipped vacation, we put it toward her future. We had promised each other. We wouldn't touch that account except for emergencies or tuition payments. But I checked it. And I saw his signature, $12,500 gone. Transferred to one of his private accounts, labeled consulting expenses. I felt like I couldn't breathe. He wasn't just betraying me anymore. He was stealing from our daughter, taking from her future, gambling her dreams on a fling with some social media influencer who barely looked legal. That's when everything inside me turned cold. No more crying. No more second-guessing myself. He wasn't just a cheater, he was a thief, a manipulator, a coward who wore the mask of a husband, who kissed his daughter on the forehead while pocketing her future behind her back. I stared at our wedding. Photo on the mantel, our fake smiles, my white dress, the promises we made. I wanted to rip it apart, but instead, I just picked it up and whispered, "You're going to regret this." Because now I had a reason bigger than myself. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice. For every mother who stayed silent, for every woman who gave too much, and most importantly, for Mia. He had taken my loyalty for granted. He thought I'd look the other way. But I was done looking away. I was going to make him see exactly what it felt like to lose everything he took for granted. And I was going to do it without screaming, begging, or falling apart. I would do it the way he'd never expect. Smart, strategic, silent. Until it was too late. It started with a folder. A simple manila folder, the kind he never paid attention to, because why would he? I was the one who handled the bills, the taxes, the paperwork. He never even knew where we kept the filing cabinet key. But now that folder was going to become my armor. Inside it, I began collecting everything. Screenshots of the credit card. Charges, bank statements, social media timestamps, hotel booking confirmations. I even printed out a few of the more incriminating photos I quietly downloaded from her Instagram. She wasn't very discreet. In one, he was clearly visible, his arm around her waist, his wedding ring tucked neatly into his jacket pocket. They say revenge is best served cold. I wasn't aiming for cold. I was aiming for precise. I didn't want to ruin him with a messy public explosion. No, that would make me look unstable. I wanted to take him apart methodically, with the quiet rage of a woman who'd been underestimated one too many times. Step 1. Secure my daughter's future. I opened a new savings account in my name only. I took the rest of the college fund. What? Little he hadn't already touched, and moved it. I made sure it was out of reach, under my control, and linked to a P.O. box address I'd created downtown. I even set up alerts so I'd know the second anything suspicious tried to breach that account. He wasn't going to steal another cent from my child. Step 2. Consult the lawyer. I met with Claire, a family attorney recommended by a coworker who had gone through something eerily similar. Claire was sharp, no nonsense, and she didn't blink when I slid the folder across her desk. After 30 minutes, she looked up and said, "He's cooked." Apparently, using joint marital funds to conduct an affair, and especially touching college savings without consent, wasn't just immoral, it was actionable. She told me not to confront him yet, not until we had everything in place. Let him keep lying, she said. Let him dig deeper. So I smiled more. I cooked his favorite meals. I even suggested a weekend getaway for just us. He declined, of course, claimed he had a conference. I smiled wider. Step 3. Gather allies. I didn't want to turn this into a messy war, but I needed people who would vouch for me when the time came. I quietly spoke to Mia's school counselor, explained what was going on, not all the sordid details, just enough to ensure Mia had support if things got rocky at home. I also reached out to my sister, who had always sensed something wasn't right with him. When I told her the truth, she didn't say, "I told you so." She simply said, "What do you need?" And I said, "Just be there when it all goes down." Step 4, watch and wait. The hardest part of the plan was the patience. Every night, I had to sit across from him, this man I once believed I'd grow old with, and pretend I didn't know what he was. He'd complain about work. He'd mention long nights ahead. He even had the audacity to bring up how distant I'd been lately. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw every printed page in his face and ask him how it felt to poison your own home. But I didn't, because the final step was coming, and he had no idea. He thought he'd fooled me. He thought I was naive, that I'd never dig deeper. But what he didn't realize was that betrayal teaches you things. It teaches you how to observe, how to protect yourself, how to stop loving someone who doesn't deserve it. I didn't need his confession. I already had the truth. And soon, the world would too. With everything in place, I moved from observation to action. The first real move came one quiet Thursday morning. I waited for him to leave, same routine, kiss on the cheek, coffee in hand, a lie spilling from his mouth about a team meeting. I nodded, just like always, watched him walk out the door, and then I got to work. I logged into our shared home computer, the one he rarely used, because he was convinced his phone was more secure. But that was his mistake, because one afternoon, he forgot to log out of his email. And I took screenshots, every reservation confirmation, every "I miss you already" from her, every receipt he tried to delete. I printed it all, added it to the folder. Then I logged into the cloud account he used to back up photos from his phone. He never knew I had the password, but I did. There, tucked between old family beach pictures, were shots from his business trips, hotel bed selfies, champagne glasses clinking, her in lingerie. All time-stamped, all damning. By noon, I had enough to ruin him personally and financially. But I didn't stop there. I visited our accountant, quietly, discreetly. I asked for a review of the last 2 years, and what he uncovered made my stomach twist. My husband had created a side business in his name only. An advisory firm that brought in payments from mysterious clients. I dug deeper. Found out that Girl, his little affair, was listed as a marketing consultant on the filings. He was paying her from that business, which he was funding, from our accounts. By now, I had a second folder. This one labeled legal. I wasn't going to destroy him out of rage. I was going to dismantle him with truth. Next, I changed the locks on a Saturday when he was out of town. My lawyer had advised me that if I could show proof of financial manipulation and emotional abandonment, I could file an emergency petition to have him removed from the property, even before divorce proceedings began. I filed it. And I waited. Meanwhile, I prepared my daughter. I didn't give her every ugly detail, just enough for her to know the truth. He's been dishonest, Mia, and I need you to trust me that I'm doing everything I can to protect us. She looked at me, eyes watering, chin trembling, and said, "I already know. I've seen how he treats you. You don't deserve it." That was the moment I knew I wasn't just reclaiming my life. I was breaking a cycle. So many women stay silent. They endure. They tolerate. I wasn't going to be one of them. I took down every photo of him in our home. I boxed up his things. I canceled his access to our joint cards. I closed the shared Netflix account. Yes, even the small things mattered. Each click, each change, each signature, it all made me lighter. I left no room for him to question what was happening. And then, the final email. I sent it to his office, his personal email, and even texted it. It was short. No begging, no anger, just 3 lines. "I know. I've known for weeks. Everything you touched, our accounts, our trust, our daughter's future, is documented. My lawyer will be in Fayal. Touch, don't come home. No more words. No more explanations." I didn't wait for a reply. Instead, I poured myself a cup of tea, sat on the porch, and for the first time in years, I watched the sun rise without feeling like I owed someone something. I wasn't his wife anymore. I was a woman with a plan. And justice wasn't a fantasy. It was already unfolding. He showed up 2 days later. I heard the tires screech before the knock came, a hard, desperate pounding at the front door, as if sheer volume could break the truth apart. I didn't answer. I watched from the hallway window as he stood there, stunned to see the locks changed, his key useless. He tried calling me 5 times. Then 10. I let the calls ring, let them go to voicemail. I owed him nothing, not even my voice. Then I texted him 1 sentence. Your lawyer has the rest. Goodbye. Within hours, the fallout began. My attorney served him with divorce papers. Attached were statements, copies, photographs, proof of financial misconduct, emotional infidelity, and documentation of the college fund withdrawals, all backed by timelines and digital trails he couldn't erase. He had the audacity to send me an email. Can't we talk? You're blowing this out of proportion. I stared at those words for a long time. Out of proportion. The betrayal, the lies, the stolen money. The girl half my age laughing at hotel dinners paid for with our future. Out of proportion? No, this wasn't an overreaction. This was retribution. The court hearing came sooner than expected. In that courtroom, he looked smaller than I remembered. His confidence cracked, his charm reduced to a nervous smirk that couldn't save him anymore. My lawyer laid it out plainly. The betrayal, the theft, the risk he had put our daughter in, by funneling joint funds to a personal affair. When the judge granted me full control of the marital assets and primary custody of our home, he didn't look at me once. Not even when he was ordered to repay the college fund in full, with penalties. Not even when the girl, his new beginning, found out he wasn't the rich, secure man he pretended to be, and left him a week later. It all unraveled so fast. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. Friends started calling. Some were shocked, some weren't. Turns out, more people suspected the truth than I realized. No one wanted to say it out loud. But once the truth was out, the silence broke. Mia hugged me that night, after the court decision. I'm proud of you, Mom, she whispered. You didn't let him win. I smiled, and for the first time in years, it wasn't forced, because I didn't just survive this, I rebuilt from it. I re-enrolled in the photography course I'd abandoned when life got too busy. I painted the bedroom walls a deep forest green, his least favorite color. I turned his office into a small reading room. Every space he had filled with noise and lies, I reclaimed with peace and purpose. He tried reaching out once more. Email. Rambling, regretful, asking if we could be friends. I didn't respond. Because there are some bridges that aren't meant to be crossed again. Some people are not lost. They are left behind, for a reason. And now, when I wake up, in the morning, there's no weight on my chest, no anxiety over what lie I might hear next, no pretending I don't notice the signs. There's just me, my daughter, and a life that, while not perfect, is mine. He thought he could take everything and leave me hollow. But all he did was show me how strong I really am, how quiet power can be, how dignity looks when it stands alone. He told me he was out for dinner, but I saw them together. And now, he eats alone.